To ask the First Minister what engagements he has planned for the rest of the day.
Later today I will have meetings to take forward the Government's programme for Scotland.
Iain Gray.
Presiding Officer, will the First Minister remind us why he decided to drop his bill to introduce a local income tax?
First Minister.
Well, two significant reasons. One was the indications that I couldn't persuade the Labour and Conservative and probably the Green parties to back a sensible measure on behalf of the Scottish people. And secondly, of course, the looming budget cuts threatened by the Westminster Government of £500 million a year. Under these circumstances, we reluctantly had to accept that this was not the time to introduce a fair, representative tax well supported by the people of Scotland.
Iain Gray.
Presiding Officer, the financial reason given by the First Minister is, of course, now his single transferable excuse for every failure on his government's part. But let's return to the second reason. When the SNP ditched the local income tax, they made very clear this reason. Mr Swinney said, "We cannot put together a stable majority to steer the plans through the Parliament." Indeed, the parliamentary vote in December last year made clear that the Parliament does not support it, the local income tax. Presiding Officer, tonight Parliament will reject the First Minister's referendum bill in exactly the same way. Will the First Minister respect the will of Parliament again tonight? Will he kill the referendum bill too?
First Minister.
I don't think Iain Gray is going to be able just to slip away from the £500 million of looming budget cuts from the Labour Party, because day after day it will be explained to him as Labour members call for increased public spending on every item under the sun of what the consequences are. But on the referendum, we live in hope that people within the Labour Party will come to see the sense and logic of giving the people of Scotland the right to choose their own future. Indeed, it is less than a year since the Labour group united behind a rallying call for a referendum for the people of Scotland. And of course, that was when Wendy Alexander was in charge. But I have discovered that Iain Gray was giving Wendy Alexander his complete backing. The 7th of May 2008, in an interview with Newsnight Scotland. Gordon Brewer, whenever the SNP bring forward a bill, you'll have to vote for it. Iain Gray, well, we've said, and Wendy Alexander's made clear, that we won't stand in the way of the people having a say. I'm confident, as Iain Gray realises the electoral repercussions of trying to deny the Scottish people the right of self-determination, he'll get back when the bill comes forward to his position of May of last year.
Iain Gray.
Presiding Officer, the First Minister is absolutely right. In May last year, Labour offered the First Minister a chance to hold his referendum fair and square. It was him who lost his nerve and slipped away from that opportunity.
Order. Order.
When the chance was offered, he was found wanting, and that chance has gone. Right now, I believe that Scotland wants all of us to concentrate all of our efforts on protecting jobs and supporting Scottish families and Scottish communities through the global economic downturn. Does the First Minister really think his referendum bill is a good idea during the global economic downturn?
First Minister.
Can I just remind Iain Gray of his own answer to a question? He was asked a question last May whenever the SNP bring forward a bill, and gave an answer in the affirmative, a bit like the Duncan McNeill declaration of the previous day, when he said, "Our position isn't clear, we're not against the referendum bill in principle." So in principle, the Labour group are in favour of a referendum bill. I think Iain Gray should better understand the clear connection. Obviously, we do everything within our existing powers to stimulate and heed the Scottish economy's recovery from this deep recession. There are 50 measures in the six-point plan, all of which are designed to give the maximum help to Scottish businesses and families at this difficult time, like the acceleration of public investment, which will guarantee 5,000 jobs in Scotland over the coming year. But anyone with a semblance of understanding of the Scottish economy will understand that if we are to reflate the Scottish economy in the same way that every single government in the Western world is approaching the current recession, then you need borrowing powers, you need the ability to increase aggregate demand and confidence. That is the connection between the powers of this Parliament and the ability to deliver for the Scottish people.
Gray, final question.
Presiding Officer, let me remind the First Minister of his answer to our offer a year ago of a referendum, fair and square. His answer was no. Absolutely. The First Minister puts narrow party politics always ahead of what is best for Scotland, and never more than in these times. He has failed on so many things: local income tax, futures trust, class sizes, police numbers, house building. The list goes on. But on this issue, he will not accept his failure, and so diverts the energies of his government away from the real concerns of Scots right now, worrying about their jobs, their mortgages and their children's future. Right now, Scotland needs this referendum bill like it needs a hole in the head. I ask him again, does he really think a referendum bill is a good idea during these times? And if not, will he put Scotland first for once and just drop the bill?
First Minister.
Let me try and give Iain Gray some advice. I don't think consistency in the referendum is his strongest suit. I've seen many remarkable statements in politics, but the quote from the Labour spokesman, presumably nobody wanted to put their own name to it yesterday in the Press Association, quote, "We've been clear all along when it comes to a referendum." I think as an extravagant claim in politics, that must take some beating. In terms of the government's programme and manifesto, as Iain Gray well understands, we've taken forward 46 of our manifesto commitments of 94 in the first 2 years of government. Obviously, the presiding officer won't allow me to go through all 46, but perhaps I could. Well, I'm encouraged by Mr Rumble's anxiety to hear them. So let's just try very quickly the top 10. Abolish rates for tens of thousands of small business. Restored free education by scrapping the graduate endowment. Abolished tolls on the Forth and Tay bridges. Funded additional 1,000 police recruits. Started a phased abolition of prescription charges. Saved the accident emergency air in Montford.
Order.
For free medical care for the first time. Introduced a world-leading climate change bill. Doubled Scotland's international aid budget. And frozen the council tax for 2 successive years. Not bad for the first 2 years. For the next 2 years, let's bring it on.
Question to Annabel Goldie.